What's going on, everybody? This is Mr. Diamond, and today we're going to be doing the example problems for our acid naming. So I've got 3 names, 3 formulas, just like our other examples. And you'll notice that all of these names end in acid, and all of these formulas start with H. So those are the things we're going to look for whenever we are trying to identify that something is an acid if they're all jumbled together. Now, I mentioned that there was a hint, there was a tip you could use whenever you are trying to identify these. And so this is me giving you that little tip right here. So the hydro beginnings you kind of are just stuck with. You kind of have to just know those. But for the other ones, you can remember I ate some acid and it was ick e. To remember that 8 endings turn into ick acids. And then I got into a fight. I know that's not how you spell it. And it was danger us. So I ate some acid and it was icky. I got into a fight and it was danger us. Eights become icks, ites become us's, and then our last ones become hydros, which would be ides. So looking at our names first, we know these are all acids. So first, carbonic acid. We know it's got to have an H out front, because otherwise it would not be an acid. Next, we need to look and think, what is carbonic? So carbonic ending is associated with something that used to be carbonate. And 8 tells us that it was a polyatomic. So now you are in the territory that I know you guys are loving so much, which is you literally just have to know it. You have to know that carbonate is CO3, and it has a -2 charge. And then in there, this is kind of an example of crossing your charges, but it's way easier. Carbonate is a 2- charge, which means we need 2 H's. You never need to bring a number down here because H is always 1+. In this case, it's 2-. If we were to cross our charges, you'd get H2CO3. Okay. Next example, and don't look at this. This is for the next section. I just got ahead of the game. I'm going to record these back to back. We have hydrobromic acid. Again, acid is the name, tells us that H has to go out front. Hydro and ick tell us that it ain't got no O's. It is a single element, which means we need a single element that sounds like bromic, and a single element that sounds like bromic would be bromine, Br. And then just like before, bromine has a -1 or a 1- charge, which means we would only need 1 H, so it'd just be HBr. And then lastly, we have manganous acid. Very weird one. It's got an us ending. That tells us it was a modified polyatomic, and that means it must end in a manganite. And manganite would have come from manganate. Now, this was a really hard one because on your polyatomic sheet, it actually has permanganate is MnO4 2-. Permanganate has 4 O's. That means manganate would have 3 O's. That means manganite would have MnO2. It would only have 2 O's. Would still have a 2- charge, which means we would need 2 H's. And there we would have manganous acid. Okay, now for our next example, we're going to go from formulas to names. So first we have H3N. Notice that N ain't got no O's, and that means we're going to name it with hydro. And then we changed it to blank ick, so instead of being nitrogen, it would be hydronitric. And then we have to add ending. So we're going to add acid. In this case, again, you see the hydrogen out front, you automatically know acid is the end. You just have to figure out what this first piece is. So hydronitric acid. Hydro, because it ain't got no O's, it's a single element. Nitrogen would end in nitride normally, and ide endings become hydro blank X acids. Okay, next we've got HNO3. Now we're looking at NO3. That would be nitrate. 8 endings. I ate some acid and it was ick-E, so we're going to change that 8 and we're going to turn it into nitric acid. Notice these are very similar, but their formulas are completely different. Again, hydro is usually meaning single element, whereas no hydro tells you it's probably a polyatomic, or it is a polyatomic. And then finally, we have H2CrO3. CrO3 looks like CrO4, which is chromate, which means CrO3 would be chromite. Ite endings, I got into a fight and it was danger us, so this would be chromus acid. Now, I know this one was probably more confusing than most of the other names, and I really wish there was something better I could do to kind of help you understand these, but just like with all the other sections, it's literally just practice. The only reason that these are so much harder is because they oftentimes involve polyatomics. A lot of them will involve polyatomic ions, so you have to make sure that you know the polyatomics and you know the modification rules. Once you know that, it's really just these three things. Hydro blankic means hydro is ain't got no O's, things that would end in an IDE. I ate some acid, so if it ends in an 8, it was ick-E. You change it to an ick acid. And if it ends in an ite, I got into a fight, and it was danger us. You change it to an us acid. All right, that's what I got for this video. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email. Otherwise, this is Mr. Diamond signing off. Have a good rest of your day, everybody.